Alright, it is time for my currently reading challenge weekly reading recap for week number 3. Hey everyone, it is Shannon and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. This is going to be me sharing how my third week of my currently reading challenge went, which is my current challenge where I'm trying to read 375 pages from my currently reading each week. I pick 5 titles from my jars. I have a jar for fiction and a jar for nonfiction, and from those 5 titles I try to read 75 pages a day, 5 days out of the week, for a total of 375 pages. So we're going to see how I did this week, and as always we'll start with the least pages read to the most pages read. So first up with the least pages read, this was no huge surprise to me, and that is the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook version 3.5. Okay, Core Rulebook 1 for version 3.5, and I read 27 pages of this. I have 261 left. It is a long one. It's a reference manual. I actually read way more than I expected partway through the week, or I think even actually in my TBR video, I thought I'd try and work with finishing off the classes, so I did, and so I had, I can't remember, was it Warrior? I definitely read Warrior, Sorcerer, Wizard, Rogue. Is there a hunter character? I guess Ranger. Is it a Ranger? And then I read about experience and multi-classing. And so that took me to the next section, which I can't remember what it is. But I did finish off a section, so I read more than I thought I would. This is a very slow read. My pages per hour was 14 pages an hour, so generally I read between like 3 and 7 pages, and that would take me like 20 to 30 minutes. Around that. So it was a slow one, and so that actually made my reading feel a lot slower, because even though it's not as slow as outline alphabets, which I've gotten a couple of times, the outline alphabets, I don't do the alphabets during my reading time. I do them at a different time of day. This I read during my reading time, so it felt, I didn't pick up on that, I think, until 5 days into reading. But I made good progress and I'm happy with the progress. I enjoyed reading it. It is drier, but I definitely enjoy it. Like I like reading manuals and reference guides. I like game mechanics. I like how things work. So it was still good reading, even if it was slow reading. Next up, another slower read, and that was Vortex by Shani Mootoo. I read 56 pages of this and I have 61 to go. I really thought, with like 117 pages left, I really thought I would have finished it, but I didn't. I did finish one whole part, and now I have just the 4th part left. And I did decide, this is a Canadian literary fiction novel about 2 women who are married, and then someone from one of their pasts sort of comes back into their lives, and it's all about characters, it's all about people and relationships, and so it's really steeped in those dynamics and emotions and and feelings, which is like, are feelings different than emotions? Like, it's really about people, what we do, how we think, what we share, what we don't share, and those kinds of things. So it is also really good reading, and I'm really enjoying it. It was longlisted for the Giller Prize earlier this year. It was one of their book club picks. I really thought, optimistically, I could read it in the month of their book club pick. I just should know better. I can't read. I have almost no capacity. That's not true. I have some track record, actually some pretty good track record of keeping up with book clubs, but generally speaking, the amount that stay on my currently reading is a lot, whether it's book clubs or read-alongs or readathon starts. It's a lot. So this is why it's on my currently reading, is I didn't finish it in time, and then I just put it aside. So, but it came up in May, and it came up here again in my May currently reading challenge, and it's really good. I enjoyed it. I was curious. I wanted to know more. I felt like I should have in some ways pushed to finish it, but I don't want to rush it. I like the pace in which it's told. I like the pace in which I'm reading it. So I decided to finish off a section and leave it there, so I'm at a good spot for when I pick it up, which is what I did in May, which worked. So I feel confident, hopefully, knock on wood, that it'll work again. So still a whole section left for that one. Next up, also Canadian, I read 70 pages of One Game at a Time, My Journey from Small Town Alberta to Hockey's Biggest Stage by Handbook Singh. And this one I read 70 pages and I have 59 left. Another one that I really just feel, I feel like in some ways, again, I feel like I wish I had pushed to finish it, but it's a memoir. I don't like pushing reading nonfiction generally, but memoirs, no, I want to enjoy hearing the story from people's lives. And I'm really enjoying this memoir. It's a sports memoir. He's a sports broadcaster for Hockey Night in Canada, in Punjabi, and that's sort of the getting into sports broadcasting and hockey, calling the hockey games is a big part of this story. And so I think I have about 3 chapters left. I think with both of these, the next time they get picked is gonna be when I finish them. So, but I'm enjoying it, and again, as I said, I didn't want to push, so I left it where it was. I actually read a little bit more than I expected at 70 pages, which doesn't feel like tons. Next up, I read, this cover is not great. I read 92 pages from The Bourne Identity by Robert Ludlum. This is one that I've split into volumes, and I'm currently in the second volume. This is made into the film The Bourne Identity, which I absolutely adore. Unfortunately, I'm not, again, I got this 2 weeks in a row, not loving the book. I read 92 pages. I'm on page 300 of 599 pages, so I have 299 left. I'm literally halfway through the book, although not halfway through my volumes. I didn't finish it. Oh, that's close. The last one, it doesn't matter, it really is halfway. So yeah, and I thought finishing on page 300 of 599 felt pretty good. I read about a chapter a day. This one is a thriller, and it's about, if you're unfamiliar with the story, it's about someone who it's an amnesia story and a thriller, and so he's trying to figure out who he is and what's happened to him and stuff like that. I'd say it has not aged very well. The gender dynamics are not great at all. I talked about that more last week, and I really just don't like the character, which is such a heartbreak because I love the character in the story, but in the film, but in this he's very cold, very calculated, very doesn't care what he does in terms of his end goal is finding out the information that he needs, and so whoever he has to threaten or worse, he will do to find that information. And I'm like, I don't like hanging out with someone who, sure, I understand you want to learn what happened, but at that cost, I'm not on board. But because it's one of the oldest books on my Goodreads TBR, I think I might have added it day 1, and I have a physical copy. I am going to keep reading it, but I did decide to. I read less this week than last week, but I think I'm in good shape to be able to finish it. It's a pretty fast read, and it's also these weird, I don't know if you can tell from this, but these sort of skinnier, taller paperbacks, which for some reason seem to be pretty fast reads for me. So anyway, I will continue it. Definitely not a favorite. But the most pages read were from The Beat by Alex Garland. This I read 287 pages, which means I have 0 left. I actually finished it. I can't quite believe it. So this is another thriller. It's a bit more adventure kind of based, and thank you to everyone who recommended suggestions for what to do when you're reading 2 of the same genre at the same time, and in particular, I love what Mel said about how could read 2 at the same time but doesn't like it. But then also Rebecca suggested that it's an opportunity to see parallels as well as what you like and don't like about the 2 things. And this was actually really good because for me, I could tell from last week I wasn't enjoying The Bourne Identity, but with The Beach, I've sort of been on the fence on whether or not I enjoy it or what is it about it that compels me to keep reading, which I know thrillers are sort of constructed to do that. I don't don't know if this simply says fiction. I keep on calling it a thriller because it has this sort of weight to it, this sort of unknown factor of potential danger, and like I'm always kind of like, and part of that for me was not understanding what the characters' motivations were, and I don't mean that in a sense that I think it's bad writing at all. I don't. I actually think the writing is quite good, and I actually talking about other parallels, like Polar Vortex. These are both about people and relationships and how people interact with each other, and secrets. So that is interesting that happened. I noticed that parallel. But with this one, I felt like with the protagonist and with Richard, because I didn't understand him, I was always trying to figure out why he did what he did, or and again, it wasn't bad writing. It was just a character I've not read from a lot. It's a perspective that I don't quite relate to, and this sort of, because it's about a traveler, and a beach. I don't want to say too much about it because like the thriller element of it. So, and I was often just like not sure if I wanted to keep reading. Like, I'm like, where is this going? What's going to happen? What will this person do? And so I was always a little on the edge of my seat. But I think with this one, I ended up feeling like I wanted to know. Whereas I feel like with Born, because I know the plot story is quite different from the film, but it's not one that I'm interested in, and I've read enough works like this to like, yeah, so that's this character and that character and this character, and it's not something, I'm sure it's complicated, and like you'd need a huge network of like figuring out who does what and what, and I don't care. I just really don't. And I've seen enough, I've more watched a lot of films like that, and in film I like it better than in books. But with this, it's like, what's that character gonna do? What's their story? Why would they do this? So, and I did, and like I got a little worried about I didn't realize it was Generation X kind of idea. Oh, yeah, that makes more sense. See, I don't read, that's actually a review. These are all reviews. It's not a plot summary. I would not know how to summarize this. But I did enjoy it I gave it 4 stars. It's well written. I found it engaging. It's not what I would normally read, and I am happy that I stuck with it. So I can't say too much more without spoiling it. I did in my Goodreads review with the spoiler tag sort of it's a bit more like this than this kind of analogy in terms of things, but it is a bit, if you know the reference material, it's a bit spoilery. It could be spoilery. Anyway, this is also, I think, a good discussion-y, like this would be a good book club pick, I think, because I think there's a lot of intrigue, and the plot keeps on going forward. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to engage with. At least I felt so. So overall, I think the reading week went pretty well. I did decide at some point that given that I got 2 thrillers, that it might be smart to pick one and do my best to read as much as possible, if not finish it. So I did feel like with The Beach, I had less pages left. I was enjoying it more, and it was the 3rd time it got drawn from the jars. So I was like, okay, let's go with The Beach. And also, I really do want to see the movie. The movie has Leonardo DiCaprio in it. It also has Tilda Swinton in it, and I am watching films with Tilda Swinton this year as one of my film goals, which is one of the reasons why I started this back in April. That being said, it also gives me some confidence in terms of reading pace, because I had started it back in April, but I mostly read it throughout this challenge, which means I actually can read a 400-page book in 3 weeks, which I was beginning to question if that was even possible. So and so technically I did, even if they weren't 3 weeks in a row. So that feels pretty good. Overall, with all of these pages, that ended up being 532 pages, so I did meet my 375-page goal. And I also read from a couple of other books I'm currently reading, and that was because I got to a good spot in this, I got to a good spot in this. No, I kept reading this one. I got to a good spot in this, so I didn't want to start new books. because we're getting close to the end of the month. So I did just read a couple of pages from a couple of different titles. So I read also 27 pages from Njal Saga. This is one of the Icelandic sagas. I read... So maybe I'll tell this, since this video is already going long, I'll leave the teaser for this one in terms of that. This is one that I read if I'm having trouble sleeping. And also one of the reasons why I finished The Beach was there were 2 nights where I was up over an hour, and about an hour to an hour and a half longer than I normally would, than the latest I would normally stay up. So I had some trouble sleeping this week. It wasn't because I wanted to read the book and I was trying to stay up. It was the reverse. I couldn't sleep, so I just kept reading. So anyway, so sometimes when that happens, I read Njal Saga. This is my backup for not being able to sleep. And then I also read a whole bunch of pages from Blood Magic by Nora Roberts. I read 105 pages, and but this is also one of the ones I'm reading on overdrive, so the page count is increased because it changes depending on what font you pick. So yeah, but I've gotten to 67% of this one, and I don't remember what I was at. I was like 60 or 57 earlier this week. So I actually thought I would finish this week in addition to everything else, and also I'm also reading Thunderhead. I don't know what I was thinking. But this one I decided to pick up because I finished all the other romances on my currently reading, and I was going to start a new one, and then I was like, wait, I think there's still one there, and there was. I like reading romance. I like always having one available and on the go. No matter what I get my currently reading to, there are some genres where I'm always going to be in the middle of something or picking up something right away, and romance is one genre that's like that. So I did read 105 pages or 4 chapters, I think, of this one. It's the 3rd in a paranormal romance trilogy, so I'm hoping to finish that series as well as finish the book. So overall, I think things went pretty well. I think, let me just show my tracking quickly. I didn't, but I actually got to my page count pretty early, so I read a fair amount of pages most days, so like 96, 78, 87, 90, 58, and 113. That was finishing The Beach. The asterisk means I finished something. So I finished my page count on Thursday. So not early. I almost got to it early, 500, 351. These are the currently reading pages that aren't part of the project. So between the 2 of them, actually, I read sort of 665 pages, 64 pages. Wow, I did that in my head and backwards. Woo! So anyway, so I think I'm feeling pretty good about how things went this week. I spent a lot of time reading, even though the Dungeons and Dragons one was definitely slower, which in future I might reduce the page count or something like that, but I managed to make it work, so I guess it's fine. I guess it's fine. And I would have The Beach be my backup. I would sort of plan out how much I would read from each book, and then I would just read as much as The Beach as I could, or I would put a little different flags in the book to, okay, this will get me to 75, this will get me closer to being able to finish it this week, and I would just change those flags every day, and but also be like, if I don't make it, it's fine. And so I did make the 75 all but one day, and then I really, the next one went for the final stretch on the beach. So overall, I think things went pretty well. I would have to, it's weird. I feel a little lackluster this week for some reason. I don't know. I guess I've been thinking, I think this is the 3rd week, plus I had a dress rehearsal week. So normally 4 weeks is as long as I would do a project, but for this one, we're only at the halfway point. So that feels a bit weird. I have no idea what I'm reading next week. You guys will, because I will have posted that. I've filmed them in the reverse order that I post them. So the next thing I'm going to film is my TBR. So hopefully I will, I'm always excited about doing the TBR. And this was actually a pretty good set, but it was a lot. And especially because I had 2 extras plus Thunderhead plus some, I did finish Fence. And I did read Monstrous as well. So I got a lot of reading in, but a lot of it was pretty dark. This is pretty dark. This is pretty dark. Monstrous is pretty dark. Even Blood Magic is pretty dark. So I don't know, maybe next week, hopefully I'll get some lighter reads. Maybe, or at least one. Even this is pretty dark, so One game at a time was the sort of feel good one of the week. So I had one. So yeah, well, we'll see what I will read next week. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I will be back with another video soon. Bye.